Okay, great. Thank you. And we're going to start in just a couple minutes. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Sheree. I'm an account manager here at Workamajig, and today we are going to be covering our project request setup and workflow. So hopefully you guys can see my support guide okay. And just to kind of help me through the Q&A, if you guys have any questions, if you could use the Q&A box, that would be great. I will try to go through that here and there and try to answer your questions as I go along, okay? All right, so at the top, if you've never been to our support guide, you just type in support.workamajig.com and you can actually use any type of browser and you don't even need to be logged into Workamajig to get here. So on this homepage, there's a little search box here. You're going to just click into here and type in the project request. And down here, you're going to see project request overview. So this is what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to be showing you how to create a project request. I'm going to show you how to use them because there's a couple ways that you can use them. We're going to go through the approval process, and then we're going to also create a project from them. And then, of course, I will show you some where you can actually track your project request forms as well. Also down here on the bottom, we do have some other resources. You have spec sheets here. You can map custom fields. I will show you where these two are located so that you guys know where those are at when we go through the whole process. And also there's some little troubleshooting project requests down here on the bottom. Okay, so you can come here anytime. Also, once this video is ready to be available, you guys can just go over here to the videos and webinars, go to webinars and past webinars, and it's going to be listed here when it's available. And then I would say give us probably a couple of days and then come check back here. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first way I'm going to show you how to use the form is as an internal person. So there's two ways you can actually use it. You can use it internally, meaning a client calls in, they need a new project from you, you want to fill out the form, and this is a form that you guys are going to create from scratch. We have no defaults in the system, so you guys are going to create your questions. They're going to be filling it out as they're speaking to the client, and then of course they would submit that and for approval, and then once it's approved, you can create a project. That's one way. The other way is you can give your client the free login. They can log in anytime they want. They pick the form that they want to use for that particular project. They fill it out the same way, they submit it, and then it goes to that internal approver for that review process. And then of course, once it gets approved, that project is created from it. Okay, so I will show you both ways today on how to do that. So let's go ahead and come over here to the right hand corner. You're going to click this little plus sign. And then you're going to scroll down here to project requests, which is under project manager. And then we have our forms. Now, you guys are going to have completely different forms than I do. I have a few of them that are in here. So again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm going to fill one out from scratch. And you guys can create as many forms as you'd like. You can create one for every kind of project that you use. I've even seen clients take it a step further and create specific forms for specific clients, and then they might have an internal person that's linked to that client so that they are the only person who approves those requests coming in. Okay, so there's a couple ways that you can do that, totally up to you. So here we're going to go ahead and fill out a direct mail request. Once I click that, you're going to notice at the very top that there is a step 1 through 4. So it's letting you know that there's going to be 4 pages to this request, and I'm just going to continue hitting the next button as I fill out each page. Hold on just a sec. All right, so the first one, you're going to notice that there is a dot for client. So here I need to look for a specific client that I'm speaking to. So here I can select that client. The requested by and the email notify are going to come in automatically. And the reason they're coming in automatically or required is because I selected that on my form so that these are never blank. It has to have something there. Now, do you have to do that? No, I just did it for here. So here, if I needed to, so if I was filling this out on behalf of my client, I would simply select my client's name, and then their email would populate in here. All right. So now you would probably put in a project, direct mail for AFCG. You can put in a project description if you'd like. Now, anything that you guys fill out on the form is going to transfer over to the project once we create it. So again, if you guys want to take the time to fill this out, you can. Here, we're putting in a due date. So I can say, well, maybe we want it here by the 21st. And what you'll notice down here is I have another question about budget amount. This is actually a custom field that I added to my form. So you guys can add, custom fields if you want. And in this case, I just filled this out or entered this, and now I'm just going to fill it out here. This is just a little text box that I entered, and then I'm going to hit next. Once I do that, it brings me to step 2 of 4, and this is actually a printing spec that I linked to my form. So you have the ability to link all of your spec sheets. You can link 1, you can link 2, totally up to you. And you're just literally going to go through and fill out these dates, and I can put anything I want. You can do drop down menus, pick whatever you want. I'm not going to fill everything out, but you get the idea here. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And here is the second spec sheet that I linked to this form. And so again, these are just text boxes. I can put in whatever I want. And of course, anything that you would need to have required, you're going to want to do that. So here we're going to just say direct mail piece and maybe a brochure, and then I'm going to hit next. Now I'm on step 4 of 4. If I need to make any changes, I can simply click into those requests, and I can go in, maybe I forgot something, so I can go ahead and fill that out, and I can save, and then it brings me back to that final step. Now you can change things here. If you guys decide you wanted to fill out an additional spec sheet, you can just click that plus sign, and then you can pick from the list that you have here. All right, so these are just the standard default spec sheets that we have in our system, so you can use those, or you can link ones that you've already created for yourself. Okay, also on this step 4, you can add attachments, and the file size that is allowed is 2 gigs. So again, maybe they had sent you something ahead of time before you called them, and you wanted to attach that attachment to this particular form. All right. Once you do that, you're going to hit the submit button. Once you do that, you're going to get a message. Now, I set up my form so that it gives the person a message, and I personally think it's a good idea to do this because again, it lets that person know that it was successfully submitted. All right. So a lot of these things can be optional if you want them to. All right, so let's go back out. So now that that form has been submitted, for those people who are going to be approvers, it's actually going to show up on their approval bell in the right-hand corner. So the system is going to let them know once they have project request forms to fill out. So once I click this, they're going to see a list. You're going to notice that there's IDs. We're going to actually create the prefix for each of your forms. So again, you kind of want it related to the type of form they're filling out, just so that you guys can have some consistency with that, right? So now I'm going to go into this form. Today's April 20th. I'm going to go ahead and click into that. And this is what it's going to look like from the internal approver side. All right, and we're going to give it a couple of seconds for this daily feed to start up. But at the top here, these are those spec sheets that were on the form. So this is where you guys would review all of your answers, make sure everything is correct. Again, clicking into each one of these, you'll be able to review everything. Also, the daily feed. This is actually going through and logging all of the information or all of the things that are happening to this form today. Okay. Also at the top, you're going to see that custom field that I brought in. So that custom field is here. And of course, if you have lots of custom fields, they're going to all show up here at the top. All right. Attachments over here to the right. Again, if you had linked an attachment to the form, it would show up here and you would be able to download it and review it. And here is that approval process that you're going to eventually set up. So I'm letting the approver know that, make sure all of the attached files before approving it, and that I only need one person to approve. So you guys will be setting up these approval steps, and then you're going to decide who your approvers are going to be. Now you can have, more than one approver. You can have as many approvers as you want, totally up to you. Okay. Then below that, we have the request details. This is all those first questions that I filled out when I first filled out the form. So again, maybe you wanted to add a description here, you could do that. And of course, down here, down below, you have a show less and show more. When you do yours, it's probably going to look like this. But if you click that show more button and scroll down, this is going to give you additional information, like when it was sent for approval or who updated it last. So you'll have that information here as well. Okay, so once everybody's reviewed or the approvers reviewed their form, they have the ability to approve. They have the ability to reject. If you reject, make sure you give a comment, because if it's going to go back to the person who submitted it. And of course, they're going to need instructions in order for them to be able to resubmit. So go ahead and, put in those comments of what they need to fix. You have a print button here as well. Underneath the more button, you can copy this request, you can cancel it, you can resend it. And then of course we have our system settings. Maybe you want to adapt, add additional fields if you wanted to. And of course we have our delete request button here too. Now just keep in mind that if you do delete it, it is gone permanently and you cannot bring it back. All right. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and approve this. Once you approve a project request form, you can put in your comments. And now I get the create project button. Now, this is where you guys need to decide what your workflow is going to be. So what I mean by that is the person who approved the project request form going to be the same person that starts the project and sets it up? Or do you need to notify somebody else to say, hey, this project request form has been approved, go ahead and start that project for it. So here down on the right-hand corner, if you click into conversations and click this plus sign, you're going to get the new conversation page here. So you could put in, project request form approved, start project. You can come down here. If I put in someone else's name, so we could say, well, maybe this needed to go to Yvette, and you'll notice that the completed box is unchecked, and I can tell her to, leave it for today's date so that when she goes to her conversation page, it's actually going to show up as an activity for her to do. So again, the system is smart enough to know that I created this conversation from my project request form, so it is linking it right here. So every conversation that I have that's from this form, it's all going to be linked together. So, and I'm going to just say no. And those conversations would show up like 1, 2, 3, depending on how many conversations you had that were related to this project request form. All right, moving forward. So now we're going to go ahead and create that project request or create that project. Once I do that, the client information is going to come over, my primary contact. Of course, if you need to make a switch, you can just click the drop down arrow and pick another contact from this. The project number, of course, you're going to leave blank because the project or the system will generate the project number for you. But what I wanted to show you is the template. So I took my project request one step further and I linked it to a template. That way, when I create the project, the schedule is already there. I don't have to take that extra step. So again, streamlining the system is going to make it easier for you. I now have my start date, I have my due date, and then down here below you can see that budget amount which was on the form itself. Now, this one here is a mapping. So I created a custom field for my projects. And then what I did is I created a second custom field for my project request form and mapped it so that the system knows, oh, this is the same information that's on my form that needs to be on my project. And then once I do that, I save. Okay, so once I do that, I can go into the spec sheets. I can see now I have two spec sheets. There's that printing spec, here's that creative brief, and I can see all the information here. If I wanted to see where this project came from, I can click into the project settings, and down here, here's that form. Also, one thing that you can do here, let's say that you had a few files or attachments on the project request form and they didn't show up on the project. All you have to do is click copy files, and then those files will show up here under the files area of the project. So again, you guys will be able to do that just in case. And then what I also wanted to show you are the custom fields. So here's that custom field that I filled out, and it came over automatically for me. So I don't really have to do anything. So now this project, of course, whoever's responsible for setting it up, getting it ready to go and putting it into production. All right. So that's the complete process for filling it out internally. I just want to make sure, are there any other questions related to what I just covered? Because next I'm going to go into the client portal. Okay, so just give me a second. I'm going to share a new screen and just bear with me. So can you let me know do you guys see the client portal? Can someone let me know? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so the other way that you can fill out the form is by giving your client the free login. So this is me being logged in as my client. So my client portal may look a little bit differently than yours. And the reason is my client has access to pretty much everything. I turned everything on for my client. But what I want you to focus on is over here on the left-hand side. This is that plus sign where they can fill out those forms. So all those forms are going to show up for them. They're going to do the same exact thing. They're going to open it up. Now, what's different about this one is the system knows that since the client is using the client portal, the client is not there. It's already connected from the back end. And now all the person has to do is either put their name in here or pick someone else. Okay, so it's only going to list the contacts that are related to their company. And here they would go in through that same process that I just showed you and just go through it until they hit the submit button. Over here to the left, these are maybe ones that were started and then haven't been sent for approval. So they'll be able to go back to them and submit them. Then you also have your rejected. So once something has been rejected, the way they're going to see that is they're going to click into that actual form itself. Over here on the right-hand side, they can see those rejection comments that will tell them what they need to do. Okay. Once they, fill those other additional information or answer those additional questions, then they can go ahead and resend request. All right. So that's here. Then we have our approved. This is going to give them a list of all of their approved project requests. And what's neat about this is it's actually going to show all of the project numbers that were started from that one project request form. So you can see here that there was 2 projects created from the one form. Okay, so that's all listed here. They also have their own listing screen. This is going to show all project requests. So I can come in here, run it for all, and then I can see everything that's in the system. Not every, again, you're going to see everything approved, not sent for approval, all of those. All right. And it's drillable. You're going to be able to come in here and click them open, or I should say they will. Okay. All right, so now that's it for the client portal. Very easy for them to use. So let's go ahead and we're going to go back to my main screen. Hopefully you guys can see my Today PM page. Okay, so I do have someone that asked about entering a custom field to populate to the project. I will show you that in just a few minutes when we go in to create. I'm going to show you how to create one from scratch, and I'll show you where that's coming from. Okay, so just give me a minute. All right, so if you're a traffic manager and you're responsible for some of the project request forms, they're actually going to show up on your Today PM page, and it's going to show up under your open items. Now over here, you're going to see unapproved project requests. So this is letting you know there's request forms out there that haven't been approved. So maybe you need to touch base with those approvers and letting them know, well, why isn't this approved? We need to get this project started. All right, and of course, don't look at my dates. These are very, very old. But then underneath it, you have approved requests with no projects. So this is letting you know these are already approved and all they need to do is generate a project. So here I can click that open, and me myself, even though I might not be approver, as long as I have the rights to be able to use them, I can go ahead and create this project without even going back to that initial approver. All right. So again, you guys can continue to create those projects, and you can create as many as you want. Okay, down here on the bottom, we do have our project requests right here. This is just another listing screen that you can use. So I can look at closed requests or all my requests. Same idea here. Now this is going to show me everything here. All right. And another way that you can look at those lists is from your magnifying glass. So for those people who don't have access to a Today PM page, you can go to your magnifying glass, go to views, go to project management, sorry. And then these are those same reports that you just saw from the Today PM page. All right. All right. So now let's go to the back end. So we're going to go ahead and create one. So we're going to go here from the main menu, admin manager, system setup, and then we're going to go into tracking and define project requests. Now, when you guys come in here for the first time, most likely it's going to be blank. That again, I told you before, we didn't put any templates in here. This is all going to be you guys to create them. To create one, you're just going to click the plus sign, and I guess we'll just do social media. Here's my description. And then this is where that prefix comes in. So maybe we just do COCM. And then what number are you going to start with? I'm just going to make it easy and say, well, I want to start with number 1, but you guys can put in any number you guys want. Now, minimum days. You have the ability to put in the minimum of days for that particular project type. All right, so let's say that, you know, for social media, there's a minimum of 10 working days. If you put 10 days in there, and whoever's filling out that form, if they put anything less than those 10 days, a message is going to pop up letting them know it takes 10 working days, and the system will actually pick that date for them. Now, it's not to say that you can't change it once it's been sent in, but the system is automatically going to pick that date. All right, so these are optional. You don't have to use them. This is that template I was telling you about. So I can come in here and see if I have a template. So we'll just do this one. I can link that template to this project request form so that the minute I approve it, I already have the schedule for it. Also down here, we have email subjects that you can change. These are our defaults underneath here that you can see. So this is just giving you the ability to create your own if you don't like ours. All right, that's all that is. You guys can create your own. Down here on the bottom, we have our display options. This is where you can require certain information. So like require them to put in the project name or a description. You can put in a client project number, meaning that maybe there's a specific client number that the client wants you to reference. So if you check mark that, that's going to produce like a text box for them to fill that number out for you. All right. And then of course, there's some other options down here. This display campaign, what that does is if they already have a campaign with you, it's going to give them the ability to link or to click a drop down menu and select a campaign that they might have. And maybe they want this project linked to it. Okay. So that's all here for you. Over here to the right, I think this is the stuff that's a little bit more important. I like to add the requester to the project team. Again, giving that person the ability, so if it was the client, they would be able to go to their client portal and kind of see what's going on with their project request form. All right. Then the next thing that I think is important is your send confirmation email. So I think it's important to let the person know who's ever filling it out that it was successfully submitted and that it's being sent for review. So again, these are optional. You don't have to do them. The last thing that I like here is to print the specs on a separate page. So let's pretend that this was a direct mail piece. I had a printing spec. Now to me, I wouldn't want to send my whole form over to my vendor. I would only want to send the printing spec to the vendor. So this allows you to print them separately. Okay, so it's not just this big one form that you're printing and then sending it to the vendor. Also, you're going to notice that the default is already set to default the name and the email of the person who is filling out the form. So again, you guys, can turn this off. This one is automatically turned on for you. All right. The next thing that I want you to see is available spec sheets. Are you going to allow spec sheets to be added to this form in case there's additional ones that they may want to fill out? So next, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. It's going to open this up for me. These are those spec sheets. I can come in here, click the plus sign. I can look for my drop down menu and I can say, well, we want to add this one. I'm going to save it. And then maybe we want to add a creative brief. Save that. So now I have my two specs that are related to this project request form. And then I want to set up the approval process. So I'm going to click that plus sign. I'm going to type in my approval step. And then I'm going to put in my instructions. Okay, you can put in whatever you want for instructions. This is just giving you an example of what you could put in there. The type of action that we're doing is the approval step. So we do have a notify step. You can set that up. And all that's going to do is notify somebody once a project request form has been approved or rejected. All right. So maybe somebody outside, or maybe somebody else on your team, or maybe someone else in your company that needs to know that, you can set that up. Now we're going to look at the send options. I want to send to everyone at once. That means if I have 3 approvers, it goes to all 3 at the same time. Whoever approves it wins. Okay. Then to send to people in order. So this goes to the first approver. They approve it. It goes to the second approver. If the second approver rejects it, the third approver would never see it. Okay, so whoever rejects the form, it stops the process right there, and then it will no longer proceed. Okay. If you have everyone must review, what this is saying is if I have 3 approvers, all 3 approvers must approve it in order for it to be approved. Okay, so this, I think it's a little restrictive, but again, totally up to you how you guys want to set this up. All right. Underneath that, we have the number of days. How many days are you going to give them to approve it? Maybe we just want to give them 2 days to be able to approve these forms because we want to get those projects started. Okay. The next thing underneath that is the plus. We're going to add our staff here. So I'm going to add myself, and maybe I want to add this person as an approver. I add selected, and I can close out. So one thing that the system will let you know is if there is no email, it's going to let you know in red. And also what this does is even though this person might not have an email, it's still going to show up in their approval bell as long as they're logged into Workamajig. So regardless if they don't get the email, they'll still be able to approve it. All right. So, and of course, if you guys decide you made a mistake, wrong person, you can just click the trash can and delete it. So now I'm done with that. I'm going to go ahead and save. So I've set up my approval process. Again, if you want to do the notify, you would just switch this to notify. Okay. And then of course you would add those people who need to be notified. All right. I'm not going to add that to this one, but you get the idea. The next thing that I wanted to show you is the access button. So what this is saying is who has rights to be able to use this form. So maybe I want to add my account managers and all of my clients to be able to use this. I add selected. And if I needed to look at who's in that group, I can simply click into that and it's going to show me all of my users as well as my clients that have rights to be able to use the free login. Okay. All right. Last place is the request button here. These are just the details from the very first page that we filled out. So if there's anything that you need to do, maybe you needed to uncheck something, but what I wanted to show you is available spec sheets. What spec sheets do I want available with this form? So here I can say, well, we're going to add quite a few of these spec sheets, and then I'm just going to do add selected and save. Okay. Now we talked about custom fields. So here right underneath that request button, you have set up custom fields. So I already had custom fields that were already set up from my projects. And what I did is I recreated them so that I would be able to add them to my form. So here you just click the plus sign, you put in the field name. The field name is the back end. So no spaces, no special characters, just short and sweet. The caption is what the person is going to see on the front end. Then of course you have your display type. You'll be able to pick whatever kind of display you want to add, and then you would save it. Once you save it, it's going to show up in your list of available fields, and then you're going to just simply drag and drop it. Now, when you want to map a field that is on the form to a field that you created to your project, you can click the edit button, and then where is my map? Oh, here, my map 2. So what this is saying is I want to map it to the budget amount that's on my project, and that's all I have to do. So then the system will automatically pull it over, and I'm going to just show you quickly where that custom field lives on my project. All right. Let me back out. So custom fields are down here. And then if I go to my project fields, there's that budget field that I already created here. So the field has to exist on your project first, and then that's when you go to your tracking, go to your project request form, and then you're going to fill out that. You're going to create a new custom field exactly with the same name and then add it to your form. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Okay, so, and then of course, at that point, it will be available for anybody to use. Again, going to that plus sign, project request, and there's my form. All right. The other thing that I wanted to talk about are these security rights. You need to make sure that you set up the security rights for the people who are going to use the forms. So admin, system setup, account information, you're going to come under security settings. You're going to highlight that group. So, you know, maybe my accounting team, for whatever reason, I'm going to click into the search box. I'm going to type in request. Once I do that, then I can see what project request rights I have available. So again, you guys can go through and give what rights. I would probably be cautious of the deleting ones, but again, totally up to you. You can add however many rights you want to give that security group. Now, the last thing that you want to do is you also want to look at the client rights. So here for the client rights, I can type in request again. And then you can see I can add project requests. I can delete project requests. So again, giving those clients the rights to be able to use those. So you have that ability as well. Okay. All right. That pretty much covers everything right now. I'm going to go check the Q&A just to see if there's any other questions that you might have here. Okay. I believe I just answered, where did you enter the custom field to populate to the project? That was on the form itself. So if I go back here to that form, edit, set up custom fields, and I clicked this plus sign to create the custom field right here. Once I created it, all I did was drag it over. All right. Let's see what other questions we have. Bear with me. Okay. All right. I believe that's all of my questions. I don't see anything that I haven't answered. I'm going to just give you a couple more minutes if you want to chime in really quick and let me know if there's any more that you want me to answer. But hopefully everything made sense. If you guys have additional questions, you can reach out to your project managers, and then again, they can answer any other questions you might have. Other than that, thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Take care. Bye-bye.